Have you ever thought about the recurring difficulties and challenges that manifest in your life and the lives of your family members? It's as if there is an invisible force that spans generations, bringing suffering, conflict, and limitations. If you have ever questioned this, you might be facing what many know as hereditary curses. These are negative beliefs and patterns that repeat through generations, negatively impacting many lives. Imagine for a moment life without these invisible chains. An existence where prosperity, peace, and harmony are the norm, not the exception. For many, this seems like a distant dream, but I am here to tell you that there is a concrete and powerful solution: keeping the divine commandments. Throughout this video, you will learn how following God's commandments can break these hereditary curses and bring real and lasting transformation to your life and that of your descendants. These curses are not just spiritual. They embed themselves as limiting beliefs that can shape an individual's entire life. Think for a moment about a young woman who grew up witnessing her father's bad behavior. She might come to believe that all men are like him. As a result, when she eventually meets a good man, she may treat him poorly, often bringing the toxic behavior from her abusive childhood home into her new home. When such a person actually encounters a man who is not good, she might settle and spend the rest of her life believing that what she has is what she truly deserves. Your beliefs will determine the path you walk, so be cautious with them. Remember, attending church and asking for a powerful prayer of deliverance might solve your problems momentarily, but if you don't abandon old habits, your life will return to where it was or even become worse. If you have experienced situations involving hereditary curses, share your story in the comments. Let's talk about it and how God is powerful enough to change any situation. And that of your descendants. Hereditary curses are mentioned in the Bible as patterns of sin that repeat in families, generation after generation. According to the Bible, in Exodus 25, God says, "I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me." This verse illustrates how transgressions can affect not just the individual, but also future generations. However, it is important to note that the same Bible also gives us the key to breaking these cycles: obedience to God's commandments. I invite you to watch this video until the end to discover how the practice and keeping of the divine commandments can be the key to liberation from these hereditary curses. Together, we will explore the transformative power of faith and obedience to divine precepts, and how this can bring a new perspective and a new reality to your life and your family's life. To fully understand the concept of hereditary curses, it is crucial to examine both the biblical context and the real, tangible impacts these curses can have on our lives. The Holy Scriptures offer various examples of how disobedience to God's commandments resulted in curses that extended through generations. However, they also offer us hope and a solution through obedience. According to Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, "But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes which I command you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you." This verse is a clear reminder that obedience to God's commandments is fundamental to avoiding the negative consequences of our actions. When we fail to follow these precepts, not only we, but also our descendants can suffer the consequences. However, the Bible also offers a way out. In Deuteronomy 30, 19-20, we read, "I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live, that you may love the Lord your God, that you may obey his voice, and that you may cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days." This passage underscores the importance of choice. We have the ability to choose to follow God's commandments, and by doing so, choose life and blessing for ourselves and our future generations. A clear example of the impact of hereditary curses can be seen in the story of King David. His personal sins had profound consequences for his descendants. In 2 Samuel 12, verse 10-12, the prophet Nathan delivers God's message to David. "Now therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife." This prophetic pronouncement was fulfilled through conflicts and tragedies in David's house, affecting his children and grandchildren. However, even in such circumstances, God's mercy and grace offer a path to restoration. According to Jeremiah 31, verse 29 to 30, in those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man who eats the sour grapes, his teeth shall be set on edge. This verse prophesies a time of individual responsibility and liberation from inherited curses, where each person is accountable for their own actions before God. But how, in practice, can we free ourselves from these curses? The answer lies in keeping the commandments. The Bible, in Deuteronomy 11:26-28, states, "Behold, I set before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today. And the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way which I command you today, to go after other gods which you have not known." Following God's commandments is not just a matter of blind obedience, but of covenant and commitment to a life of righteousness and blessings. Practicing the commandments involves a daily commitment to divine principles. It is a lifestyle that requires discipline, prayer, and constant study of the Scriptures. In Matthew 22, verse 37 to 40, Jesus sums up the commandments in two great precepts. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. By putting these commandments into practice, we begin to see a transformation not only in our lives, but also in the lives of those around us. According to Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart, and no virtue equals the justice of repaying good with good. This principle of gratitude and justice aligns with biblical commandments and can serve as a powerful antidote to hereditary curses. Finally, practicing the commandments must be accompanied by unwavering faith and a constant connection with God. According to the Apostle Paul in Philippians 4:6-7, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. We have reached the crucial point of this reflection: how to transform the knowledge acquired into practical and concrete action. Understanding hereditary curses and the promise of liberation through keeping divine commandments should not remain theoretical. It requires a daily commitment to applying these principles in our lives. Choosing to follow the commandments is, in fact, choosing life. By opting to obey divine precepts, we are not only protecting ourselves from curses, but also blessing our future generations. Keeping the commandments becomes a legacy of faith and obedience that we pass on, creating a virtuous cycle of blessings. Therefore, I invite you to make a decision today. Choose to follow God's commandments with all your heart, soul, and understanding. By doing so, you will not only free yourself from the invisible chains of hereditary curses, but also build a solid foundation of blessings for yourself and your descendants. Remember the words of Jesus in John 14, verse 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. This is the call to a life of obedience and love, where freedom and blessing are guaranteed for those who choose to follow God's voice. If this content was useful to you, don't forget to like this video and follow our channel for more transformative reflections. Together, we can walk a path of liberation and blessings, following divine precepts and living the fullness that God has planned for us.